Good morning, everybody. Got to another Friday, and you made it this far. You may as well make it to the weekend, right? I mean, you can get through today. It's not going to be that bad. How are things, Siya Sangweni?
Okay, 8 hours to go until the weekend. Then, if you use your logic.
Sure, you're actually counting down the hours. How do you figure that? What time do you think it actually officially starts?
Do I need to show my working?
Yeah, show me your work on a piece of paper where you get the long division and then multiply and add and subtract back in and all that stuff. So I need to see your work. I don't understand otherwise.
Well, I have used Johannesburg Meridian time because, of course, the weekend starts sooner in Cape Town Meridian time. You know, they start their weekend.
Yes.
At 1 minute past 12.
Uh-huh.
But with Johannesburg Meridian time, starting my day right now, plus 8 working hours equals 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, he's here. He goes. All right, Sia's trying to work it out. Let's see.
4 p. Wait, 6. 4. No, what? Yeah. Wait, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2.
So what
4,
time does it start?
4 p.m. It starts at 4 p.m.
Is that what you reckon, huh? Okay, that's his. He did the working out and everything. We got to see his work.
Let's go with that.
Wow, complicated. All right, very good. Sia's figured it out. Happy Friday, everybody, and we are ready to take you through into that weekend, which Siya figures starts at 4. So a lot going on, man. I was busy kind of watching a little bit of the news yesterday, but never too much. You know when they do that, when they put like a person there who doesn't want to be identified in the news, so they film them from behind, or they film them with like hugely bright light behind them, so you can't see any of their features, and they usually put like a vocal effect on their voice. Yes. You know what I mean?
Everybody
instead of, hello, my name is Denise or whatever. Then hello, my name is Denise, and then they say things like, "Well, I was walking down the passage, and then she came out of nowhere, and she hit me in the back of the head. It was so cock." That's what they sound like. But it's coming from a woman.
Yes.
It's always so horrible to listen to.
Why was this person yesterday?
I don't know. There was some bullying incident at a school or something, and this girl she was probably too young to be identified or whatever it was, but she was telling her story, and then, you have her going, she starts off by saying she was sitting in the classroom, and then this other girl came out of nowhere and hit her on the back of the head, and then they started throwing shit at each other. And it's just like horrible, horrible stuff, right? But because of that funny voice, it's like, well, I was sitting there, and then suddenly she came out of nowhere, and she hit me in the back of the head. And it just sounds, it looks and sounds weird, because you got this woman there, but she sounds like, like a man, like an old man. So it's very funny.
I'm always still confused when they speak to like criminals, and they say, well, to get some insight on crime, we spoke to a criminal. I'm like, where did you get them? Do you just ring up a criminal? Do you have a criminal on your database?
Yeah, they actually, the criminals come to them sometimes. So they want to get it off their chest. So they like,
someone would confess.
I was involved in this hijacking, and I want to tell you the story. But obviously, as journalists, then they are duty bound not to reveal their sources in a story. So they can't say, "Oh, it was Siya Sangweni at X and Y address that gave me this information." So even if the cops come to you as a journalist and they say to you, "You've got to tell us who that was," you don't have to reveal it. If you're a journo with ethics, and they've got their own rules.
To any criminal who might be listening and want to get on the show, please don't email me. I don't want to get.
If you're a criminal and you tell Siya and I a story, and you say to us, "No, you can't tell anyone," we're going to go straight to the cops.
No, don't do it.
Yeah, we don't have journalistic morals and ethics. People often call me a journalist just because I'm on TV or on radio, and I always have to explain to them, no, I didn't study journalism, so I'm not bound by any of that shit. You guys can do whatever you want. I don't care about that. And I also don't care about presenting like both sides of an argument or the truth. I try to be as objective as possible, obviously. Otherwise, what am I, Otherwise, we're just wasting our time here. But I'm not a journalist, so I'm not going out to like find the facts or any of that stuff. And if that's what you're listening to this show for, you're in for a hiding. I mean, it's just going to be the worst time for you. You're going to hate every minute of being part of this show. If you think that I'm running around like Deborah Patter or, Mandy Wiener trying to find the truth in a story or trying to get my original sources, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. For me, it's all just like, oh, Siya, did you hear? And it could be complete hearsay with this on this show. So if we're your news source, you're in a lot of trouble, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Gord is the subject in the comments already. We're 9 minutes into the show, and people are already asking. Robert saying to Gord or not to Gord this morning. So Gord called me yesterday. Gord he's like a much more emotional person than Siya and I. So I was busy. I can't remember what I was doing. I was busy doing some admin, replying to emails and like sorting out internet banking and a whole lot of crap. And then my phone rings from Gord. So I'm like, yes, hi Gord, how you doing? So he's like, oh man, I just need to talk to you. So I'm like, yeah. So he goes, well, like, I've started this new job and it's really busy and it's keeping me super busy. And it's gone from like 3 days to 5 days and it's going to be a full-time thing. And because I want to move overseas eventually, this is something I really need to do. But it's long.
And already 20 seconds in, you thought, just get to the point.
Like I'm just glazing over. Like, if for example, if you called me, Siya, and I'm not a complete monster, but if you called me and told me about your nephew who had just broken up with her girlfriend or boyfriend and you had to go and visit them because it's been so cold and they have no wood to burn and they've run out of food and the other day I'm ready. Just say to me, look, I'm not going to be on the show on Friday. So I knew that this is what Gord's building up to, but he thinks I give a shit about the preamble. So he's talking and talking and talking. And I'm like, Jesus, dude, just get to, because, the worst part from him is a voice note because he leaves these long voice notes. So I go, Gord, what is the story? He's like, well, I'm not going to be able to do the show permanently on a weekly basis. So I'm like, well, when did you ever, in my head? But I don't say that. So I go, God, that's fine, dude. I mean, we'll figure it out. And obviously, if you can come on the show from time to time, that would be great. But I totally understand. He's like, yeah, okay, great. But I'm really emotional, man. And when I think about it, it makes me want to cry. And, the show's such an important thing to me. And now he's going back into the conversation in his head. And I'm like, Gord. So I go, Gord, yes. It's fine. You've told me you can't be on the show tomorrow. So I'll tell Siya, because clearly you haven't either, because you'll get too emotional. So we won't have you on the show tomorrow. But since you can't do it permanently anymore, do you want to do a final show? He's like, yeah, very much. So can we do next Friday? So in other words, the last Friday of May, because he's starting this full-time thing of his from the 1st of June. So he's going to come on next Friday for the last official Gord show. And then he's going to come in when he can from time to time. He'll kind of do an Mbulelo or a Ben or whatever, be a part of the show when he can. So I said, look, that's fine. But I didn't need the whole explanation. Don't worry, Gord. I think he was a little disappointed because I didn't get all emotional with him. He's like, I've been doing the show for like 3 years, 4 years now, and it's really been such an important part of my life. And anyway, I mean, I'm not the guy you have this. It's like I see these people who break up with each other and it takes them like 3 hours to break up, and they pouring their hearts out to each other and bursting into tears and all that stuff. I'm like, I love Gord. I mean, he's obviously, I wouldn't have him on the show if he wasn't a funny and interesting dude. And he knows we love him on the show, but I don't need to have a whole, it's not you, it's me conversation. I'm okay. Like, I know you've got shit to do. I got shit to do too. And let's get on with our lives. So he's going to be on next week Friday for the last show officially, and then from time to time he'll come on as a kind of guest host, which is terrific. Anyway,
but despite
I
that,
saved myself a long voice note by actually speaking to him live in person, which was nice.
right.
But I do feel he left. He finished the conversation, and I don't think he got what he wanted out of it. Like, he wanted a meaningful, deep, like, God, you've been so important to us, and he has. I'm not denying that, but I was busy with shit, and I didn't want to get into a whole emotional conversation with him. I'm not good at that stuff. Neither are you, actually.
Well, even after all of that, then he moved over to me.
Oh no! Did he go to you as well?
Absolutely. Then I had to deal with everything else. This is even just some of the texts from you.
Okay. So I called Siya straight after that. I'm like, Siya, Gord can't do the show tomorrow, and he's going to do his last show next Friday because he's blah, blah, blah. So it was short. I mean, like, how long did I speak to you? 2 minutes?
Barely. The funny thing is, you said, Siya, I'm going to mention someone's name, and you'll instantly know what this is. Okay, say the name.
In the interest of time.
Gord. Gord isn't coming onto the show. You said, you got it.
Correct. So we didn't need to have a long conversation. So what did he do to you after that? I thought I'd saved you the trouble.
Oh no. I was the first text. I love you very much, Siya.
No.
Then we got into it. I'm fucking heartbroken, but I just have to take this job. You guys are the biggest thing on the other side of the scale. ... Their next message, were, as in were, biggest thing on the other side. Just I don't need this Romeo and Juliet-ness in my life.
But you know what he says to me? Like, and I know we're talking behind his back, but if he was on this conversation with us, it would be the same conversation, right? I mean, we don't hide stuff from each other. So he says to me, the only option would be for me to turn down this job. I'm like, are you insane? This is what you want to do. This is what you're good at. You're earning good money from it. It's going to open up opportunities for you overseas, which we know you want to pursue. Like, why would you even bring that up? It's like if if Elon Musk came running over here and he said to me, hey, listen, I want you to run something for me in San Francisco, and I'm going to pay you $5 million a year. I'd say, bye-bye, Siya. Bye-bye, Cliff Central. Bye, everybody. It's been great. Bye. I wouldn't feel like a nothing. I'm sorry, guys. It would be, oh, thank God Elon Musk saved me from this fucking show. That's what it would be. But Gord is like, no, it's either it was you guys, or I seriously considered saying no to them. I'm like, don't be ridiculous.
No. I doubt that as well. I think it's just a nice thing to say in the emotional moment of it all, but I doubt it. Yeah.
Well, it's like when when people break up and then they go, well, it's not you, it's me, and I need to go and deal with my inner feelings and speak to a therapist, and it's because there's been huge strain on the relationship, and whatever it is that you make up has put distance between us. I can do that too, but it feels so inauthentic. I just don't worry, it's fine, dude. We love Gordo, and when we can get him on the show, we'll get him on the show. But it's not, here I've just done a long explanation like he would, but I need, there are people who listen to us who want to know these things, so I thought I'd share it with us. Okay,
we move on. Another day, another show. That's where our minds are at.
So there's some interesting things here because people have different ways of communicating. And I see lots of arguments and comments going on in the YouTube comments. And you can, by the way, you can get hold of us on the YouTube comments. We read those. Siya and I go through them meticulously with a fine-tooth comb. No, we don't. But I mean, we see some of them. And then if you want to email us, that's probably a surefire way to get a response back. That's Siya or Gareth at cliffcentral.com. And then you can also get hold of us on the WhatsApp line, which is 079-748-2090.
Not so one email. It's not Siya or Gareth at gmail.com.
No, no, it's Siya at cliffcentral or Gareth at cliffcentral.
Just clarify.
Yeah, correct. So Tracy says, so not so different to the current status. Love Gord, going to miss him.
Yep.
It is interesting, though, if you have important stuff to do, obviously the best way to do it, and if it's something that really matters to you, obviously an in-person meeting is the best. Like if you are going to break up with someone, if you've got any shred of decency in you and the relationship's been more than like a month, you should really do that in person. I mean, it's the same reason I got pissed off yesterday by that woman in the restaurant on the first date show who just walked away. She just ran away from the date. Like I think you've got to be enough of an adult human being to be able to confront situations and deal with them, right? So I think in person is number one. Then probably if you can't do that, a live phone call is number two. Then I would say voice notes and texts are number three.
No, but it also depends on the situation. Like I'm not emotional about work. Because work is work. At the end of the day, there are certain expectations and deliverables that I have to bring to the table because it is what I am paid for. But when it comes to, if it was a friendship, like God says, I'm actually not good for him in his life anymore. He thinks I'm a negative person. He doesn't want me in his life. Let's have a kumbaya conversation about that. Yeah. Let me explain. Let me apologize.
You would do that for friends or for a relationship that broke down. You'd have those long conversations. You'd probably take them out for lunch or whatever and make it pleasant.
My goodness, imagine a client having to take us out for lunch just because they aren't renewing and coming back for a second season with us. So Cliff Central.
No, the only time I'll go for lunch with clients is when I know they're coming in to spend more money. That's like
but come on, imagine
you're going to break up with us at Cliff Central and you're not going to stop spending money. Then we definitely don't need to do lunch.
Jeez, I love you guys. I really do, but it's just right now we're on different paths. No, just say we aren't doing it. We move on. We make another plan. Come
on. Right. No hard feelings. I mean, that's the whole point. Like everybody has a different emotional accessibility, a different emotional need. And it's fine if you are like, those very emotional people who everything needs a conversation, needs to be unpacked. It needs to be thought about for a week. Siya and I suppose, and Siya, you've always been like this. So it's not my fault that you've become like this. Because I always take the blame. Like if Siya becomes mean and calloused and hard and cruel, I'm going to say it's my fault. But you know what I'm talking about when I say that a lot of stuff, especially when you are, how many guests do you organize a week for this show and for the TV show? It's like easily 10, maybe more than 10 a week, right? So if you figure that over the last year alone, with the TV show and the morning show, over the last year alone, that's 10 times, call it 340. So that's almost, 3,400 guests in a year.
Wait, what? Was your math good there? How did you get to that?
So if you're doing 10 a week, I was immediately going by day. So if you go 10 a week, here, I'm going to show you how I work here. All right, are you ready? Yeah, so we got 10 a week. And there are 50. Let's call it 50 weeks in a year, right? So let's say it's 50. So it's 500 guests in a year. I was going by days of the year, which is obviously ridiculous. If you were doing 10 guests a day, you'd have burnt out and killed yourself by now. But that's 500 guests. So if each of those people needed a sit-down dinner to explain why they were or weren't coming on the show every time, I mean, you don't have 500 dinners and lunches available in the year. You just don't. So sometimes it just needs to be a quick call. And please don't get me wrong. Like I think in business relationships or in personal relationships, there are definitely times where you need to take a gap out of your diary and you need to say, all right, this is important to me and I need to spend time. Like you were saying with, a friend or, even Gord, who is a friend because we've spoken to him for so long. If Gord said to me, I really need to talk to you about some personal stuff, then it would be different. But just to tell me he can't be on the show every single week. I don't need to have too much info. Anyway, Michelle says, does that mean we get Ass back, please? Friday isn't the same without her. Well, you see, now we've gone and told Ass that she's here on a Wednesday. So I don't know. Now we've got to go back to her and have that conversation. Moonchild says, it'll be great to have Ben on more often. Ben is very complicated and he's very busy these days. So we try, trust me. Gareth, you remind me so much of Henry Higgins. You know who Henry Higgins is, Siya?
No, who is that?
From My Fair Lady. He's the guy who teaches her how to speak properly.
Okay. Reference is lost on me. Didn't watch the...
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, Monica. I'm going to take it as a bad thing because I think he was like this grumpy old bastard who lived on his own and told everybody else what to do. So I'm thinking that's probably a bad thing, but thanks anyway. Ruth says, my son, who is 15, and that entire generation don't really do calls. They only do texts. Most of them have become scared of a phone call. It's crazy. Well, we've discussed this on the show too, but that is a real thing that people are, especially Gen Z, if you call them, they freak out completely. You must send them a text first to find out if you can call them. No, well, that's how it works. I mean, I also think, though, because people are so flaky and they can't stick to arrangements anymore, you sometimes have to have an actual in-person conversation with some people. If you've got a meeting that's really important, you need to check that they're actually going to be there. Then a phone call is the best way to do that because text won't work. They might reply late or whatever. In real time, you've got that person on board. Every morning, I tune in at 7, rewind and listen from the beginning. If you guys have discussed the real Miss Gigabyte's testimony, woman has nothing to lose. Oh, yeah. So I saw a bit of that yesterday. Wow. Norma Gigaba, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was at the State Capture Commission again yesterday. It's become a he said, she said between her testimony the first time and then Malusi's responding affidavit to that. And this is fascinating stuff. So she says, we all know about the bags of money at the Guptas, right? She says she got home with him one day after they'd been at the Guptas and he had his leather bag, which he used to keep the cash in. It sounds like such a gangster movie, but it's kind of pathetic because essentially, like, Malusi was so bad with money, and this is our finance minister, if you think back, right? That's how scary it is. He's so bad with money that the Guptas have to keep giving him cash, not other kinds of, like, they could have bought him a property in Dubai or something, for example, and like kept it in their name and then assured him that he would have it but it had to be bags of cash. This is how dumb Malusi Gigaba was. And then he'd take the cash home and he had a big safe in his study. And Norma says they got home one day. This is how she knows that the money came from the Guptas. She went to check on the child because the child had a temperature. And then she needed to go and see Malusi because she wanted to take the kid to the clinic or the hospital or something. So she walks into his study without knocking and she sees him packing big bricks of cash into the safe. And he's got the safe door open and there's just cash. She said there was so much money. She said, and she started shouting and screaming because she's like, where does all this money come from? And he's packing bricks of money into the safe. How's that? And then apparently there's a room, but the two versions of the story don't exactly line up because she says there's an underground room in their house that they have in Pretoria when he was minister. And he says, no, there's no such thing. So they disagree with each other on everything. And whatever Malusi says happened, she says doesn't. And whatever she said happened, he says didn't happen. So it's amazing to hear these two. It's just really, really interesting.
Now it's becoming a little too clear that it's like, this is not just straight up bitterness, in my opinion, from her.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. But here's the thing, right? Either we choose to believe her because she's really got nothing to lose. And if she is bitter, then she might make up one or two things. But by and large, she can be honest because she's already angry with him. And, she's got nothing to lose. Plus, you lie to the commission. In some ways, it's a sort of perjury, which they do have the powers that a court has to charge you with contempt. And I mean, that's why Jacob Zuma's in trouble, because he didn't pitch in front of the commission, right? So I think even though she's a bitter and twisted, scorned woman, she's really got nothing to lose. She's just telling her version of the story here. And by being as honest as possible, she can, because the details don't need fabrication in this case. I mean, she's just alleging stuff that we pretty much know happened, right? The Guptas used to feed Malusi packets of money by mouth. And this is what we know to have happened. So now she's just giving us the detail. I believe her. I mean, there's no reason not to believe her.
Secret room.
Oh yeah, but Siya, she's not very bright, hey? She's really not very bright. She's quite a dumb person. She's not very intelligent. She struggles to explain basic stuff. So can you imagine being someone who's pretty ordinary and simple? And I don't know what her background is, what kind of a life she had before she met Malusi or whatever. But you can see that she's the kind of person who would have been hugely impressed by a lot of money. If you gave her like a pile of money like this, there's just that would make her whole life. It would make her year.
Look, but also that aside, though, where she currently is right now and who she's working with in terms of her legal team, that isn't just a by. They're doing something very strategic here. So I wonder what their end game is.
Well,
she's definitely going to get something out of this.
She did let slip that they were married in community of property, which means everything gets divided in half. Everything. So whatever Malusi's got, everything down to the clothes. So if you're married in community of property, it's 50-50 split. If you're married outside of community of property, then there's outside of community of property with accrual and without accrual. So that means that the spouse who was working earns the money. Then, even though you're out of community of property, there's a pro rata way you can work out what you're entitled to as the spouse who wasn't the income earner. So in this case, according to her anyway, they're in community, so everything gets split down the middle. So if he did have, piles of cash in the safe at home, she's entitled to half of that. And the funniest thing is the Guptas, when she asked him, like, what's this money for? Malusi Gigaba says, well, I'm the head of ANC elections. This is for the elections. We're going to use this for the elections. Now, I know that this is ANC's standard policy. You have to give people money to vote your way in an election. I mean, remember there was all that controversy around Bosasa and Cyril and how much did they give him for the elections and who was paid by who and who paid Didi Mabuza enough cash for him to swing Cyril's way. You remember all that. So we know in the ANC you can buy the branches. Like you can go to the branch in, I don't know, Kwakwa, and you could say to them, hey, guys, how much to swing this branch my way? And then the guys who are in charge of that branch will say, well, if you give us each 250,000, we got a deal.
I feel like there might be regulation around this, but I'm not sure. How much, like, is there a limit to the amount of physical cash you can have when trading in South Africa? Like, could you walk into a Gucci store with 15,000 rand in cash and buy a pair of shoes?
You could do that with a car as well. They're not going to ask questions. Listen, if you
cash,
Norma Gigaba said they would go for lunch. Oh, this is the funniest thing. So, what do you think if you're the minister? What do you think? You're busy, right? You got shit going on during the day. You're like, you have to have meetings of this one, and you have to have policy discussions of that one, and you've got your team with you. And no, not Malusi. They were going for facials in Sandton together as a couple. They were going for facials, and then they would go for lunch in Sandton. And while they were having lunch, Malusi would go and have a suit made, and then they'd go for lunch another 2 or 3 weeks on when the suit was ready. And then he'd give his protection officer cash, pile of cash, and the protection officer would go to the shop where they had the suit made and pay for the suit and then bring it to Malusi.
Of course.
And then the legal counsel asks her, how many times did this happen? She went, a lot of times. So this was his thing. He liked to buy expensive suits and go for facials and lunches in Sandton City. This is why we're paying for him to be minister. Great, huh? This is how the ANC works on the inside, everybody. For those people who think that the ANC is a serious political party and that they're a serious government, they take government seriously. I hate to break it to you, but no, most of those people are just buying things, having lunches, going for facials. They think being a minister is like being a housewife, basically. It's unreal.
Wow. Look, I hate to sound naive, but I'm still stuck on the point that you can pay for a lot of things in cash. I really thought it was like, there was a limit or of some sort.
Yeah.
You live and you learn, I guess. Okay.
Kim says, I got a WhatsApp from a colleague last night saying she wants to chat because she's felt that there is tension between us. You're not list for this crap on a Friday. Gareth and Siya, how would you handle it? What would you do, Siya?
Got you, Kim. Nah. Just say it. Oh, fuck. I don't know.
What do you do? I would reply back to her and say, no, there's no issue between us. Don't stress. It's all good. Have a nice Friday. I'll see you at work tomorrow.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy into that, and I don't want to get involved. And even if there was genuine tension, how much do you care to fix it?
Yeah.
Do you guys work on opposite ends of the building? Better yet, do you still work from home and you don't have to deal with her? And then the only thing you have to deal with is like getting passive-aggressive emails from them. But other than that, move on.
Winsterian Pikachu, who's easily got the coolest name on the show, says, can't you get a complete woke Karen on the show, just so normal people can feel good about themselves when we all rip her a new one? Well, I would love to have people. Here's the truth. Like, even with the TV show, and we've got to get to headlines, but I'll throw this in quickly. Even with the TV show, Siya and I are always trying really hard to get people who do not have the same opinions as us. You know, I'm often trying to get like a serious lefty, you know, someone who writes for the Mail and Guardian, for example. I'm always trying to get those people on the show because I feel that they say things and they think things that I don't, and therefore we can have a really interesting argument. They don't want to come, hey? We've tried. They say yes, and then invariably, like 2-3 days before the show, they pull out. They're not keen. It's not because they're scared of me. I think it's because they don't really want to test their own hypothesis on certain stuff. So a lot of people are not raised by parents who teach them how to argue substantially or efficiently. Many people in South Africa are raised on the basis of fear. Their parents tell them, you do this because I say you must do this.
But also, we're very nice in this country. We are lovely, nice. Yeah. We want to be agreeable. We don't. That's where we are right now. So to get someone to completely disagree with someone else's,
I mean, you see people on Twitter. Someone is like, "Yo, fuck you," and they're full of argument. But then in real life, they're a complete pussy. So it's hard. You're trying to find people who will stand up to me or disagree with me, and a lot of them won't. Hey, a lot of them are like, no, well, I was going to talk to Gareth, but I can't. So I'm scared.
But I will say to that message earlier, I did see a Karen in real life earlier this week. I was at a store getting some wine, and I could see that there was a very long line at the till.
Yeah.
And there was something going on, like the lady behind the till couldn't operate the actual till because else, I don't know whether they needed a key or some access code. So now, hence why there was this long line and no one was really experiencing it. Slightly speaking to my earlier point of how South Africans are just so agreeable, I had picked up a couple of bottles. Then I see this long line, and then I thought, no, it's not even worth it. I was in the process of putting the bottles back onto the shelf and just leaving the store when the woman in the line just had this massive blowout. This is unacceptable. Why are we waiting for so long? You know what? Well, if it is a problem, you should have actually told us. How are you actually transacting as a store? And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to stay for this. I will stay for this. I thank you to the car because things got done.
All right, before we get to the headlines, because they're going to be angry with me if I don't do it, you have to like and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we do not get the effects of the algorithm, and then this is a waste of everyone's time. So please like and subscribe. I'm not going to ask nicely. I'm just going to say if you don't do it, then don't bother watching, because then you're wasting our time and yours. Okay, just do it. There's no need for a discussion and a debate about it. It takes you 2 seconds. I mean, for heaven's sake, I don't care. It's not for me. It's not for Siya. It's so that the people who in our team who keep giving us shit about this get what they want. So just like and subscribe so they leave us alone and we can get on with the show.
I'll say it kind of is for me.
Is it for us?
It is. It is. I'll take it. I'll take it. It is for me.
All right. Thanks, Siya. All right. Here's some headlines for you. First of all, David Mahlobo. You remember him? He was in charge of state security for a while under the Zuma administration. An intelligence operative with the pseudonym of Stephen said that former State Security Minister David Mahlobo claimed that there were many threats and costly resources were deployed to respond, but none were ever found. This is about when he was State Security Minister. He said there were so many dangerous things going on. Apparently, this Stephen confirmed that there was another agent called Frank. You know, they only use first names in the State Security Agency, mostly because they can't remember the second name in the State Security Agency. They really are the opposite of what an intelligence service should be. They're like a dumb service. So you would call it intelligence if it worked, but they're dumb because it's not intelligence. Anyway, this guy Frank once delivered 12 million rand in cash to former State Security Minister David Mahlobo. Again, another minister who's so venal that you need to give him pallets of cash to get things done. Stephen testified at the State Capture Commission on Thursday on various issues involving the former minister. He said David Mahlobo issued instructions for people to be paid because they were in danger or to buy their silence. How's this? This is madness. This is how...
This is the mafia.
But the mafia do it properly, and that you never know they've done it. These people are doing it with state money, right? And they're doing it badly so that we find out about it. That's why it's coming out now at the State Capture Commission. Anyway, he also denied Mahlobo's allegations that he was a peddler who told the commission false information. Stephen said that David Mahlobo once said that a person linked to trade unions was in danger and should be paid 120,000 rand every month for their protection. Unbelievable. Wow. These are such basic, dumb people. Jesus,
but it also works. It works for these people who gets paid 120K just to keep quiet.
Sure. But who taught these guys how government works? Nobody. Clearly, they were just dropped into it, and they're out of their depth from the beginning. They're drowning in the pool, so they think if they just fill the pool with money, they'll be able to climb out on the money rather than drown in the water. He said that Mahlobo also claimed someone was threatening to disclose details of a meeting attended by former President Jacob Zuma and should be paid 6 million rand for their silence. Oh my God.
They got paid for their silence and they got paid for a new house. That's essentially it.
Yeah. So Judge Zondo says, is it true that you delivered 12 million rand in cash to Minister Mahlobo? That is correct, Stephen confirmed. This is wild. This is wild. He said that most times when he asked for proof the money was delivered, people appointed to deliver or the recipients would just laugh. Stephen said that Mahlobo claimed that there were many threats and costly resources that were deployed to respond, but none were ever found. So this is it gets more and more intriguing as the State Commission of Inquiry, the State Capture Commission continues. It's bizarre that all of this was going on under our noses. And this theft, we wonder why things don't work in South Africa. This is why. And to that point, the second story in the news today is from Tito Mboweni, who has said that decisive action was needed to stop the rot in municipalities. Now is the time to do this, Tito, but okay. I mean, at least he's saying the right thing. He dealt with the unimpressive performance of local government in his budget vote speech on Thursday. The minister said there'd been almost zero return on the billions of rand spent over the years trying to build capacity in municipalities. Yes. So remember, if you think David Mahlobo and Malusi Gigaba with their suitcases of money are bad. Those are the smartest guys in the ANC. Those are the top guys in the ANC. Those are the ones who get selected out of the cadres. They get selected for national government, for cabinet positions. These guys are like at the top of the pile. Imagine those people at municipal level. How they could barely sit the right way around on a toilet. And they're like, okay, you are in charge of Mangaung municipality. Like you're dealing with like a zombie. It's basically a zombie. So anyway, Tito Mboweni hitting on some truths there. He said, most of South Africa's 257 municipalities are in some form of trouble. And he said that's where the rubber hits the tar. It's really when you face reality. Currently, there are 163 municipalities, again, I'm quoting Tito Mboweni, the Minister of Finance, which are classified as being in financial distress. 163 of them. 40 municipalities are in a financial and service delivery crisis. There are 102 who have adopted budgets this year which they cannot fund. So he said, so we're facing difficulties, he says. This is the Minister of Finance. Okay, that's nothing we didn't know before. But anybody who still thinks that the ANC can do things properly, I've got bad news for you. Pumzile Van Dam, who is slowly becoming the less famous Van Dam in the family, because Iniso, who's the bachelorette, is probably more famous and more important than her right now. But she quit the DA and quit as a member of parliament yesterday. She has served for 7 years. Van Dam also was the spokesperson of the party from 2014 to 2018. She says she left the party due to a clique of individuals rather than a racist party. But she's had a very tumultuous time in the DA. I don't think the DA is sad to lose her, and I don't think she's sad to lose the DA. So it's not much of a news story, if you ask me. Maradona's medical team have faced manslaughter investigations over his death. You know how seriously the Argentines took the death of Maradona. I mean, he was a very unhealthy man, right? Towards the end of his life, the guy was on piles and piles of drugs. And
unhealthy is an understatement.
But unhealthy, exactly. Okay. But they want to blame someone for his death. So 7 people have been placed under formal investigation for manslaughter over his death. The accused, who include Maradona's neurosurgeon, Leopoldo Luque, psychiatrist Agustina Kosachov, and psychologist Carlos Diaz, potentially face 8 to 25 years in prison. This is like when Conrad Murray killed Michael Jackson. You know, people can't believe Michael Jackson's dead, so they want to blame somebody. And obviously, Conrad Murray was a backstreet doctor by any estimation. But that's not going to bring Michael back. And you almost want to shake the Argentine people and say to them, hey, guys, even if you lock these people away, it's not going to bring Maradona back.
I bet you want someone to suffer for something if you're feeling the pain.
Yeah, it's a very primal thing, I suppose. So the indictment is based on findings by a board of experts into Maradona's death from a heart attack last year at the age of 60. And the report concluded the footballing icon received inadequate medical care and was left to his fate for a prolonged, agonizing period before his death, which came just weeks after he underwent brain surgery for a blood clot. After so many injustices, the case has come full circle, they told Associated Press. The accused are prohibited from leaving the country and will be questioned by investigators this month. So let's see what happens. Finally in the news, this is a strange story. Black fungus. Have you heard about this, Siya?
Another thing that's here to kill us?
Pretty much. India's states should declare an epidemic following a rise in deadly black fungus cases, the country's health authorities have said. Now, I mean, India's had a really tough time with coronavirus in the last couple of weeks, and now there's a black fungus. The normally rare infection called Mucor Mycosis has a mortality rate of 50%, with some only saved by removing an eye or the jawbone. Yes. That's a horrible way to go, right, Siya? You lose your
removing
jawbone?
An eye or jawbone?
Mm-hmm. Doctors suspect there may be a link with the steroids used to treat COVID. In recent months, India has seen thousands of cases affecting recovered and recovering COVID-19 patients. Diabetics are particularly at risk. Doctors say that it seems to strike 12 to 15 days after recovery from COVID. Then you lose your jaw.
Still sore.
Yeah, sorry about that. Mucor Mycosis. Ugh. It's a very rare infection. It is caused by exposure to mucor, which is a mold found in soil, plants, manure, and decaying fruits and vegetables. It's ubiquitous, found in soil and air, even in the nose and the mucus of healthy people. It affects the sinuses, the brain, and the lungs, and can be life-threatening in diabetic or severely immunocompromised individuals, such as cancer patients or people with HIV/AIDS. So that's a scary thing to think about. Just add that to your list of things to avoid, if you can, through the course of your life. It's not something anyone wants, right, Siya?
Well, I'm going to add it to the list of things that are out to kill me.
Yeah.
Gosh, so black fungus.
Apparently there's a new version of Basic Instinct coming out. The famous Sharon Stone movie where she flashed her beaver to the world. It became the source of never-ending jokes for comedians over the course of like 25 years. So what's the story with the new Basic Instinct?
Well, it's not necessarily new, but it's X-rated. It's an X-rated version that will come out soon that will show that iconic beaver shot, as you call it.
I think that was back in the 90s. Sorry, I didn't make it up. That's just what they called it.
You know what? It's only a 2-hour show, so we can't beat around the bush. Excuse
so to speak.
Yes.
They called it a gratuitous. This is the term they used because it was big. I mean, in the movies, you never had A-list actors.
What was big?
No, I'm explaining it was a big deal. So you never had A-list actresses kind of flashing that part of their body. We might have seen titties before, and you may have occasionally seen a full frontal nude of a woman, but never like a legs spread gratuitous beaver shot. That's what they called it.
It was like somewhat in the dark there. So with this one, like it's been brightened and lightened, we see all of it in all of its full glory.
They're shining a parabolic light right up the legs, and we in other words, we're going to get it HD. It's going to be there no pixels. It's going to be in high resolution. Okay, great.
Yeah,
this is terrific. And it's still getting Sharon Stone. What's the story?
It's the original footage from the taping years ago. Okay. And I'm not they aren't clear on whether or not there are other nude scenes that were recorded then but weren't released. It seems like they're alluding to that in this new version. But Sharon Stone is supposedly very ticked off about this because there's nothing that she can do, and she feels somewhat powerless because she was an actress then, well, still is an actress, but she just signed on as an actress without any legal power to say, no, I want this, yes, I want that. So this will all get released somewhat against her will.
Poor Sharon Stone. I mean, it doesn't sound like she's thrilled about it, but there's nothing she can do, right? It's done. I remember that scene. She was wearing a white, I think first she had this white coat on, and then she took the white coat off, and then she had a little white dress, and it came up to just above the knee. And then she like pulls it up above the knee, and then she uncrosses her legs. And it was a big deal. It was a really big deal because, never see, I stopped pretending to be straight. It was a really big deal when it came out. People were, they were obviously it's the same as when Janet Jackson, remember with the wardrobe malfunction during the
Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Janet Jackson's one titty got out, and there was like pandemonium because she showed a titty, and like people were freaking out all over the country, and there were people who were complaining that they're never going to watch TV again, and of course they did. It's amazing to me that there are so many people who are so outraged by stuff, and like 3 weeks later, their lives are completely back to normal, and they don't even think about the thing.
You've forgotten.
Yeah. So if you're one of those people who was horrified by Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct all those years ago, all I could say is I feel sorry for you, because now Now the internet is so chock full of much, much, much more obviously X-rated stuff that you must feel like a complete idiot.
The thing is, the team behind Basic Instinct is not really caring about Sharon's comments. She's going, it's unfortunate that this footage will be released. It's against my will. I couldn't have control over it. And the team said, you spread your legs on camera. What did you think was going to happen? So they kind of have no compassion at all for her.
No sympathy there.
Nothing whatsoever.
It's all right. If
I don't know, do you even care? Would you even watch the movie again with this re-release? Sure.
Yeah, I would. I would like to see the full parabolic light experience. I would like to see her with like ring lights all around, and then she does it again. And no, I don't know, Siya. I mean, it was a good movie. The funny thing is, like, this is what happens with movies. It's like that's the thing everybody remembers, but it wasn't a bad movie. It was actually a pretty, good movie. But no one remembers that. No one's like, yeah, the plot was good and the script was good and Sharon was a great actress. They're like, oh, there was some pussy in that movie. Yeah. That's all there was. That's all people remember.
That's all I know of it. I've actually never watched it.
No, you need to watch it.
I don't feel like I'm missing out on much. No. When was it? In the 80s? The 90s?
90s.
Yeah, no. I'll give it a skip. But, if you want some nostalgia and you're in for that, then go right ahead. But you straights are very lucky having beaver shots in film.
What, don't you get penis in your movies? Your movie.
No. Yes, your. No. We you don't see like Idris Elba walk in and strut his.
Well, maybe they just haven't paid him.
What? I'm not going to take this conversation further than it needs to go.
No, you're looking for trouble now.
It's a Friday, but we don't have to go that far.
So Ruth says quite rightly, X-rated stuff has become so meaningless. It costs nothing. Gareth, have you watched Hot Girls, Wanted, Turned On, Netflix, a must-watch? No, I haven't. Is that something worth taking a look at?
I think I could be wrong here, but I think it is the documentary that is done by, what's her face? Quincy Jones's daughter, Rashida Jones. And it's around porn stars or cam girls and what really goes on in that industry.
So they've released the Friends trailer, which everybody's talking about as well. And Venetia says she watched it, the Friends clip. The Chandler character, that's Matthew Perry, can hardly speak properly, slurring. My goodness. Really?
So I'm a little confused by what the reunion was meant to be. I thought the reunion was actually going to be an episode, like still filmed in the same apartment, and they go to Central Perk, and like there's a fictional plot. What I saw of the trailer is they go on tour of the original set, and then they sit down for an interview with James Corden. So maybe I've only seen one version of the trailer, but I actually started like going around and searching for others. Perhaps that's all they're releasing for now. And maybe they'll actually do like a full-on fictional episode. But it's Jennifer Aniston, of course, still looks.
Sure, nothing's changed. She's just amazing. I don't know what she's what kind of child sacrifices at full moon she's not taking. That she has not changed. She has not aged one little bit. In fact, I would even say Jennifer Aniston. How old is she now? Look her up quickly, see. I'm interested in exactly what her age is. Only because it's a number.
In her 50s.
I think that Jennifer Aniston looks better now than she did when they started Friends.
Yeah, she's 52. Courtney Cox is 56.
Wow.
Lisa Kudrow is 57.
All three of those girls look amazing, don't they? Which one are you not impressed by?
Lisa has, she is a 57. It's not that she looks bad. She just she looks her age. And if looking at everyone in the cast, Courtney Cox, Jen Aniston, I think, they still look like their characters.
It's
everybody
hard
else.
Imagine if you compared to two girls who look like Courtney Cox and Jennifer Aniston. That's not fair, right? I mean, like, even if Lisa Kudrow, because even in the days when she was in her 20s, she wasn't as pretty as Courtney and Jen. So you can't. That's like apples and bananas. Okay, I get you, but the guy is different story. I mean, Matthew Perry's gray. He's like a silverback. Sorry, not Matthew Perry. Joey, Matt LeBlanc.
Joey Trivia. Yes.
He looks like a silverback. I mean, he's got this very silvery gray hair, and he's been doing like Top Gear since the Clarkson crew left that show. And I don't know that his career is really. Remember, he tried to do that spin-off, the Joey show, which never really worked either.
Didn't work out.
But he's not. He's not an ugly dude, and I suppose he looks his age as well, so he's okay. David Schwimmer, he looks like Jeffrey Epstein. and Matthew Perry, I think Matthew Perry's really addled. I mean, if Venetia's right, I haven't seen the clip. I must watch it today just because otherwise I'm not going to be able to talk about it effectively. But Venetia, if she's right that he can't even speak properly and he's slurring, then maybe Matthew Perry did do too many drugs.
Yeah, the trailer also alludes to him talking about I think it was his alcohol addiction. But this is what I hate. I'm such a cornball. I never even was a Friends fan. I didn't get into it at all. But when the theme song played in a slow piano version, and then they were walking through the set, and you just see the silhouette of all of them linked up arm in arm. Okay. I'm such a loser.
Gentle Inflatables, which is also Gentle Inflatables, says they all had plastic surgery. I think that's pretty much a given in Hollywood, though. Like, because everyone is so afraid of getting old in Hollywood, because your roles dry up and you don't get to do as many movies as you used to. Hollywood is probably the most ageist place in the whole universe, right? I mean, the youth is the drug that everyone really wants. So I think plastic surgery in Hollywood is inevitable. But there are ways of doing it properly, and there are ways of doing it badly. Like, if you do it cheap, it really ages you way, way more. You probably end up looking a whole lot worse. As far as I mean, again, Jennifer Aniston, I don't think she needs any surgery at all. I think Jennifer Aniston now, at 52 years old, with no makeup on and her hair a mess, would still look fantastic.
Because she keeps it right and she keeps it tight.
Yeah,
but citing someone like Ellen DeGeneres, since she's in the news, in an interview I saw of her, with announcing the show ending, she speaks about and reminded me of how rare it is for her to have started this talk show career at 45. And at 45, you're old news in Hollywood. You're getting kicked out, and it's who's next and who's fresh, and so we live in an ageist world.
I will never forget Ricky Gervais when I watched him on because I went to New York and I was in the live studio audience for Harry Connick Jr.'s show, and Ricky Gervais was the guest. And we were, because we knew the producer, we were invited. That was when I took Idols over there. So we really got like incredible access. Remember him saying in the interview, though, Ricky Gervais, he got his big break in his 40s. Before that, nobody knew who he was. He was a total loser. He had no money. In his 40s, that was his break. So that's incredible. Just shows you're never too old and it's never too late. I mean, most people, if you are going to become rich, it's going to be in your 60s. That's the sad reality. It's like there are not a lot of millionaires under the age of 40 in the world. There just really are not. There are very few. It's the exception, not the rule. So a lot of people expect, I used to think when I was 20, 22, I was like, if I haven't made this much money by the age of 30, then I'm a loser. And of course, I didn't make as much as I thought I would by the age of 30. And I didn't feel like a loser. I thought life was okay. I reckon I never had as much money as I did when I was a student and I had no money. Like I could make a rand.
Say that again.
I felt like I'd never had as much money as when I was a student. I had no real expenses. I was living at home with my parents. I had to worry about petrol. I had to worry about petrol. I had to worry about, in fact, I didn't even have a car for a long time, so I didn't even worry about petrol. I had to get lifts with whoever I was going in or out of varsity with. And if I was really stuck, then I could always call my parents. But I didn't have a car for like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years of varsity. So there was that. And then all I worried about was food and like entertainment. So going out with your friends. Like that's all that I had.
And your priorities in check.
I mean, I wasn't earning anything, so I had no income, but I always felt like I had money. It was amazing. I don't know how I made a rand last as long as that. And then from there on, you steadily start to feel more and more poor. I mean, my sister and her boyfriend have they've just bought a house, and it's their first house together, and they're excited about it. And I'm kind of sitting in the sidelines going, yeah, I'm curious to see how this goes for them as well, because having a house, well, you see, if you rent a property or if you aren't moving in as a couple together, which until now they haven't, there are things that don't come into such sharp focus when you're both worrying about, like, you know, the water bill or the laundry or food every night. It suddenly all the excitement goes out of the window. It becomes very routine and mundane. So I'm just curious. I just want to see how it happens. I'm interested in how people deal with these things, especially if they're your family or friends.
Gosh,
I got a great email. It's 7:04 though. We've got to move. We got Phil coming on later on from DeWitt Motors. He's got some interesting stuff to tell us. He's actually in Swaziland of all places at the moment, but you know that their dealership in Ermelo is always one of the places we check in to get like a barometer on the economy, because Phil buys and sells cars, right? Used and new, and he knows whether the economy's screwed up or whether we're okay. You can check in with him. And speaking of cars, we also speak to George Mienie on a Friday, which is good news. Plus, Sia's got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about when it comes to money. And there is much, much more. So stick around. cliffcentral.com on a Friday, baby. Someone sent me a message the other day, say you don't say it's the weekend, baby, anymore. So I'll do that when we come back as well. Plenty of stuff to get excited about.
There is only one place on Cliff Central for 80s movie recommendations, obscure 80s references, 80s crushes. And it's the only place on Cliff Central with the best 80s songs you forgot how much you loved. That 80s show, Fridays, 9 a.m. on Cliff Central. People say we're stuck in the 80s, like it's a bad thing.
Rory Sutherland. Welcome to the Brain and Brand Show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be on. What a fantastic title as well. How can I resist? Yeah, I think this is absolutely vital, which is the way we perceive things depends on context. And relatively small tweaks to context change what things are. That if you recontextualize something, or if you kind of reconceptualize something, you reframe something, you tell a different story about it, you can effectively turn it into a completely different thing.
I'm Timothy Maurice, and you can download the Brain and Brand Show on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
All righty. Speaking of podcasts, I love that promo of Tim Maurice. He spoke to Rory Sutherland, who's just fascinating. I mentioned the other day he was the boss at Ogilvy. He might even still be the big ad agency. What a clever man. Very interesting discussion. And I listened to the podcast the other day, which was awesome too. Speaking of shows you might want to listen to, today, Paolo and Barrett and Dory, who are all still obsessed with the 80s. It's very embarrassing, actually. No, it really is. I mean, I like the 80s too, but I wouldn't do a show about it. The three of them are totally obsessed with the 80s. They've never moved. So Paolo, Barrett, and Dory got Graham Russell. Do you know who that is, Siya?
No.
Okay, there was a band from Australia, two dudes called Air Supply. Does that ring any bells?
Air Supply does.
Okay. Do you know any
sing
songs?
I can feel it coming in the air.
No.
Who was that?
Do you know? Okay. Do you know a song that goes like this? It goes. God, how does it start?
I'm actually just going to Google to avoid embarrassing myself further.
I know.
I do know Air Supply.
And I know just how to cry. I know just where to find the answers, and I know just how to lie. Those guys. So
I know All Out of Love.
That's right. I'm all out of love. I'm so lost without you.
Okay.
I mean, very few people would know who Graham Russell is, but they're very excited on that 80s show because they're going to be talking to him.
I know that. Okay.
I will say this: Air Supply. I remember when I was judging idols. I did a comparison of all the people who had the biggest range in voice. In other words, they could go from a very low note to a very high note, and they were able to cover like 3 or 4 octaves on the keyboard, which is tremendous. And Mariah Carey obviously can go right the way up, but she's also got really good low notes. So the guy from Air Supply, I'm not sure if it was Graham or the other dude, because I really don't know their names. Sorry. But the one guy who sings most of the main parts and the high parts especially, an unbelievable range, just like never falsettos. He's just always on the mark. And they are still touring, by the way. How's that? They're still touring. They're both 70 and 71 years old, and they're still on tour. That's phenomenal. I mean, they're not Rolling Stones old, but they are old and they're still on tour, and that's pretty amazing, don't you think?
Goodness gracious, yeah.
Pretty wild. So they're talking to Graham Russell from Air Supply, and the full interview is going to be playing out on that 80s show today at 9 a.m., and it's repeated at 5 p.m. He's going to talk about how the band started, all their difficult years before they became successful, loads of great stories about other bands, life on the road, general music industry stuff from the 70s, 80s, and beyond. So don't miss that today. That's quite cool. Got an email from somebody, lots of feedback here. Do you want me to get to this quickly?
Okay.
I'll just throw this in because it's really well written. I love an email that's got bullet points, and Vince did that. He sent us an email with bullet points, so I'm going to go straight to Vince's email. So number 1, just dumping my thoughts here, Gareth. Number 1, I give 0 shits about the Middle East, but you would also get death threats from Israelis if you were perceived to be pro-Palestine. Just saying, same, but different, still the same. Number 2, I love the new thumbnail designs for YouTube. Oh, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, those we implemented this week, so thank you for that feedback, Vince. Number 3, When can we get a shot of Joe Camino again to vaccinate us against financial illness? Siya, do you have an answer on that?
Okay, we can make that happen.
Okay, very good.
Stevens, this is good. Send an email. We put it in our suggestion box.
This we work on it immediately, and because it's in bullet point, we know what we're dealing with. Thank you, Vince. So very professional, this email. I love it. He says, "Is Ben still stuck under a fat girl?" No, Ben was having terrible luck on dating apps, and I think he's kind of given up now. But we may get him on at some point to get an update on that. Please, can we get Gord on Fridays? You see, we've addressed this at the start of the show. I don't want to go back over old territory, but you can go and listen to the first 15 minutes of this morning's show and you'll hear all of that. Monday, you kept calling the electric chair the electric chair. Not once did you refer to it as Sparky. That's what it's more commonly known as. I didn't know that it's called Sparky. I thought it was just the electric chair. So you taught me something here as well, Vince. Thank you very much. And finally, he says, this is bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is, do you perhaps know of a website or platform for people with ideas for good businesses that require funding? Not like GoFundMe, but rather for investment purposes. I'm looking to dabble with some venture capital. Ooh. No, I don't. But, we did that really interesting feature. In fact, it was a series of podcasts with Virgin a long time ago. And we were looking for small businesses.
What was it called again? I just went blank.
But it was all about small entrepreneurs and kind of them starting their businesses. We also obviously had Naked Insurance sponsored a feature where they went and found small businesses and told us how they work. And there have been a number of others. In fact, last year in December, we did a series of features with what was it called?
We are so bad.
You're useless at this stuff. I'm sorry. We're the last people you need to ask about where to put your money. Sorry. No, I'm just going to answer no to that.
I'm trying to remember without having to go through my folders. Wait, last year's one was... last year's one.
But I do remember it. We were talking about... Ozo. Thank you.
Ozo, okay.
Ozo, that's correct.
Dream Tropin, the one Virgin.
It's all coming back to you now. Yes, it was Dream Tropineur.
I'm not going to sing.
No, Dream Tropineur, and then Ozo was last year. So go and look those up, and you might get some ideas there. And maybe those people are looking for some funding. Who knows? But I would start off with those. I don't know how else to advise you. Okay, and then he ends the email with peace and love, which is excellent. So thank you, Vince. Very nice. Always good to get the feedback from someone who's got some good criticism, some constructive ideas, and some things that we have to do for homework. So it's great to hear from Vince.
It might sound like a doff thing to say, but I've started challenging myself to try to remember things without instantly going to Google them or to go and search for them. And try to do this in your own life, and you'll realize just how much you rely on Google. If if you're at dinner and you're talking about, that movie with think about how long it takes you to remember it on your own accord, and how stupid you'll feel. We as humans are doof, man.
Eleutheria says she suspects there's a note of facetiousness in my tone when I say I love bullet points. No, I really do. I was saying to Siya yesterday, I had such a pleasant day. I was sorting things out at my house. I was tidying up, cleaning out drawers and cupboards, throwing away stuff that is taking up space, expired things in the fridge. I just tidied everything up and I feel so good about it. Oh, I love it. I'm so happy when I'm organized. I'm not being facetious at all. It's my thing. Being bullet points are awesome in an email.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Paul has a suggestion for Vince here. You can go to the Innovation Bridge portal for investment opportunities. Okay. Paul knows what he's talking about. Definitely more than me. Gord is as reliable as a wet fart, says Adam. Like that time that Siya shat his pants. Not a week goes by on the show where Siya shitting his pants doesn't come up as a discussion point. All right, let's hand over to Siya because he's got some interesting things to say to us about like these shops with these savings schemes and how you get sucked into their crazy marketing ideas and then you end up spending way more money than you should.
Gosh, how silly! Off the bat, how many of these store cards do you have? These store cards, point system. Oh,
None.
are you not one of those people?
No. They always ask me at the till, do you have one of these super saver or this kind of club or this kind of shopper card or what? I never have any of them. Never. I'm
just trying to think now. I have 6 of those.
How do you fit them all in your wallet? Here's my problem. This is my wallet. Okay, look here. This is my wallet. That's my whole wallet. There. Look how thin that is. That's everything.
Oh no, I can't live like that.
Credit card. On this side, gym card and ID. And in the middle there's some cash. Look here. It's a little bit of cash. That's it.
No.
That's all. That's my whole wallet. If I carry more than that around, that's crazy. No.
Where's mine?
You have a fat wallet like this with 200 cards in it? Oh no.
2 seconds. It's around here.
I want to see. Can't stand that. And where do you put it? You put it in your pocket?
Yeah, now I can't even find where it is.
Uh-oh. You've lost your wallet. Bad news.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
See?
Sorry, I have everything in here.
Fat wallet.
Well, I have like two different designations of a store card. This is one of the savings card. Another savings card. Another savings card. Another savings card. So what are we on now? 4? Oh, 5. I'm sure there's more. 6. Yeah, 6 of these store saving cards. And they're actually not like, I feel like you get duped because they really don't work much. I read this article yesterday, and this is what prompted this thought for me about analyzing a grocery store. And they say if you spend X amount, you get, well, let me just be specific here. But they actually ended up working out that if you spend 1,000 Rand, you get a mug for free. 1,000 Rand to get a mug. But the way, but the way in which, but the way in which they've explained it, they make it seem like you actually want to spend more. They incentivize you to want to spend more. Meanwhile, you realize
the reason you don't want to show us your whole wallet, or is it?
No.
Okay, I see how big it is when it's all. No, turn it on its side. I want to see how fat it is.
Well, all of the cards out now. Taking all of the cards out.
Yeah, I see. You put those cards back in, and it's like twice that size. Then, how do you fit that into a pocket? You know what I mean? Yeah, all of those cards are as fat as my whole wallet.
Yes. By the way, some of these, like I still have a youth card, and they're like,
God,
sir,
I'm not a youth anymore. You can't get away with it. So apparently,
I actually do fight for it as much as I can.
Someone on the comments here is saying there's an app where you can upload all the cards. It's called Fidme or whatever it is. MM says that. That's how they spell it. FIDME. You can also use the app Store Card that you could actually put these on, and then you don't have to carry around the card itself. I like this. This is good. You see, this is where technology helps us. Most of those reward cards are now digital, according to Carl. You can keep them on your phone, and they scan your phone at the till. Andrew says, again, you can download that app. So that's all very useful. I also hate a fat wallet, says Andrew. Yes. No need for anything fat in your life. None. None whatsoever.
Let's not take it there.
Even full fat milk. Hey, did you hear that in America now? No, seriously, there's a real thing going on. The airlines are now going to weigh people before they get on planes.
No.
Yes.
For what?
Air travel is already so undignified, and now they're going to make it even worse by like making you hop on a scale when you check in. Because
no,
it's not just to cause trouble. They're not trying to be rude or to ostracize fat people or to shame them or anything like that. A plane, if it's too full, it's too heavy, it can't take off, right? You have to work those weights out very, very carefully. So, in other words, what's happened with people over the course of the last maybe 30 years is people have become heavier. So the plane needs to be calibrated, fuel, lift, luggage, overall carrying capacity. They need to figure this out very carefully. The pilots do a calculation, and if it's too heavy, the plane won't take off. So it's a safety thing. And because people have become much heavier, they used to figure, okay, well, we can fit 60 or 80 people in a plane of a certain size, because the average person will weigh, let's say, 80 to 90 kilograms, average adult. Now they're saying people are so fat, they're so grossly overweight. Humans have become, especially in America, humans have become so fat that they can't work on the average weight being 80 or 90 kilograms anymore. They now have to work on the average weight being 110 and upwards.
But wait, that seems like they'd have to do that before the day of the flight, because you can't troubleshoot when you get there. What are you going to do if you get there and then people are overweight and then there's luggage? You can't tell someone, hey, please turn around because you're fat.
You have to get on the scale like a weigh bridge.
Oh my gosh, how undignified.
You have to get on the scale, and then they're gonna, I wish they'd announce it to everyone around there. Can you imagine? They're like, all right, Denise, get on the scale. Denise gets on the scale. No. Denise weighs 140 kilograms, everybody.
Oh.
People at the back of the line are clapping. And can you imagine if the pilot actually said, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Today we are going to take this flight to Durban, and unfortunately we are 140 kilograms overweight, which is precisely the weight of Sarah, who's in 12B. Sarah, if you could just get into the aisle and grab your bag and get off the plane, please, then we'll be ready to take off. Thank you, Sarah. Bye-bye. Gosh. Imagine.
That's mortifying. That is mortifying for people with serious weight issues. I don't care. I'd saunter on.
It might be an incentive. It might be a way for people to lose weight if they know that they're not going to be able to get on the plane because they're going to be too fat and they're going to be called out for it. That's what I think.
It could also be an incentive if that means I could pack more luggage. I'm smaller, so
I've always said, if I have to pay extra for my luggage when it's overweight, if you come back from an overseas trip and you've bought people presents or whatever, and sometimes your luggage is like 2 or 3 kilograms overweight, and then they look at you and they're like, well, you're gonna have to pay extra for that. And I'm always like, but why? I weigh much less than that person. They're not paying more. They're at least 40 kilograms heavier than me. You're like, why do I have to pay more? That doesn't seem fair. I reckon they weigh you and your luggage. So if you're an enormously fat person, you must just make sure your luggage is very, very light, So if you have very light luggage plus you're fat, then it evens out. So you get about the same. And I reckon that's how it should work.
I feel like this idea is just not going to catch on. I don't see it happening. It will just not work.
I think it's great that they're doing this. So does Carl. He says, it's about fucking time they weighed people at airports. Some fat fuck is allowed as much luggage as thin old me. I've been saying this for years. Fat fucks get one small bag. Shows a lot of anger there with Carl. I just want to point out that I'm quoting Carl there. That's not how I feel.
Hey, this idea won't fly. Thank
Well
you
done,
very
Siya.
much.
Very
I try. Yes.
Yeah, there's some other points being made here about like the seats and the size of the seats and how that's also had to be expanded over years because people have become larger. And
what would really help is like, what if they had an over 90 kg airline?
Well, that's what I'd do is I'd launch Phat Air, and then Phat Air would be. I mean, it would be. You wouldn't be harassed. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm the CEO of Phat Air, and at Phat Air, we don't body shame people. You can come on no matter how fat you are. Of course, we can have fewer people on the plane. There will be less people on this flight than, which might actually be, for some people, could be a plus. I've always said there should be, because we're increasingly niching market segments out, right? Like there are such niche segments now. You could have Phat Air, which would only be for big people, but they're less seats and you pay a little bit more. Then you get No Children Air, which would be like for people who don't want to travel with screaming children, and you pay maybe an extra $500 or something for a flight, but you guaranteed not to have kids on the flight with you screaming. Then you could have single people air if you're like if you're looking to meet people while you travel from place A to place B, you could meet other single people.
with bigger bathrooms then for specific hooking up.
Correct. Yes.
At single air.
Mile high club stuff. Yeah. Good thinking.
Yes. Here's an innovation for Phat Air. Let's be real. If Phat Air is going to actually like
got to have a buffet,
start crashing, everyone there is going to die. So in an emergency, you won't get an oxygen thingy fall from the ceiling. Instead, you'll just have like a chicken drumstick.
Yes, good idea. Or cake. Yes, cake or a chicken drumstick.
So it'll dangle in front of you.
You imagine like the captain on Phat Air, and obviously it's going to be a fat captain as well, right? So,
hello everybody, I'm your captain. Welcome to this Phat Air flight. We're about to take off for Cape Town. It's going to be 2 hours, but we might just take an extra half hour because the buffet is open at the back of the plane. Please help yourself. If anything runs out, then I'm sorry. We've got the maximum carrying capacity on this plane, so obviously what goes in must come out. Please don't use the loo if you have already done so on the ground. We're most appreciative of that, because last time someone left the toilet in a terrible state after having a whole lot of cakes and pies. So welcome to Phat Air. Thank you very much. We are going to take off in... Pass me another piece of cake, please.
Would be great. I'd like that. And then you could just be yourself, There should also be slob.
You'll be happy.
How about slob air, where people who like don't wear shoes, or people who squeeze their zits, or people who haven't brushed their teeth, or people who have clothes and with holes in their underwear or whatever. Those people can also fly. Don't you think?
I'd advocate.
They could put their feet up on the seat in front of them, and they could be slobs, because on that plane it's okay. Right.
I'd advocate gay air as well, and that will just be like. Do you remember Britney Spears' Toxic music video? She was an air hostess.
Yes.
That should be gay air.
Yeah, gay air, and they can
we're singing, there's sparklers everywhere. And you know what? Gay air actually will not add to air pollution, because that plane will just emit glitter.
Yes, it will. That's true. And can you imagine all the drag queens who would be auditioning to be cabin crew? It would be amazing, right, Siya?
Everyone would listen to that safety video because it will be fabulous.
But also, you're going to get such sarky comments from the air hostess. She's going to be walking down with her trolley and like, chicken or beef? What do you expect? What do you think this is? You think this is Buckingham fucking Palace? They throw something onto your table or whatever.
But let's be real, gay air will not be serving chicken or beef. We'll be serving like hors d'oeuvres and something fabulous.
Some kind of something on a stick. All right. I think we've got some business ideas here. I like this very much.
Absolutely.
Okay. So someone's saying that gay air could be called sausage air. How about that? All right. Mike says fat air won't take off. And how about woke air? Woke air, that's a good idea. You just have a whole bunch of people who complain about other people. They're just moaning the whole time about everyone else. Hey, Phil, what's happening, man?
Morning, guys. How are you?
Lekker. Phil Coetzer is here. He is. We've spoken to Phil a couple of times. If this is the first time you've seen him, you haven't been paying attention. He's been with us a couple of months now on Cliff Central, and he's always got interesting things to tell us. Phil is in charge of a brilliant dealership. If you're ever in Ermelo, and I know for many people that's not necessarily a destination, but it's a busy place, and Phil's been busy over the last couple of months. He also deals all across the country, so it's not as if you have to go to Ermelo. He comes to you. Weren't you in Joburg yesterday, and now you're in Swaziland?
Yeah.
You drive around.
How's the signal? Is it okay?
Yeah, it looks good. Everything's fine.
Nice.
But dude, how do you manage? How do you manage to drive such distances? Are you just used to it because you live in Ermelo and everything's far?
Yeah, well, I think you get used to it. I mean, yeah, I think that's the core. Yeah, I mean, we drive a lot. I mean, if you're in cars, you need to drive. So that's probably part of the business. And so yes,
you really get to test these cars properly. I've got friends who live in the Free State, and to them, a 2-hour drive is nothing. You know, if you tell me I have to get in the car and drive for 2 hours, to me that's torture because I'm used to everything being really close. But if you live in like Ermelo and you need to get to Joburg, you don't think about it. How long is that trip from Ermelo to Joburg?
It's about 2 hours, but it's a great road. I mean, you're on the M17, and then there's no traffic cops, so it's easy. Yeah,
no, that's good. That's always a big plus. So listen, I wanted to catch up with you because there's quite a lot of stuff we haven't spoken about in a while. I've been driving that the short wheelbase Pajero for a little while, and I really like it. The only thing that I wanted to tell you that I didn't like is the way I have to reach around like for the seatbelt because I'm lazy.
Okay.
And the only thing I didn't like was the seatbelt. Everything else is pretty damn cool. And I haven't taken it off road, so I haven't used the diff lock or any of the lower gears or any of that stuff. But it drives beautifully. Yes. And I have to tell you, Phil, fuel efficiency, and it's a diesel that you gave me. Fuel efficiency is such a big deal these days because the price of the fuel is so high. And that car is it's unbelievable how little fuel it uses.
Oh, great. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, since the last time we spoke, I mean, we actually tried to punt that specific vehicle on your show.
Yes.
And as we mentioned, I mean, the Pajeros will be they will completely stop production now forever. So we bought quite a few in. I mean, from the point of maybe this thing will become like an icon vehicle or some collector's item. So yeah, we're fortunate. I mean, so I think all the short wheelbases, like the one you currently drive, I mean, you've got our last one. So we've been sold out since.
Oh, really? You've sold out completely?
Yes, on all short wheelbases. So yeah, that's quite a nice thing. I mean, if you're a Pajero person, I mean, it's also a loyalty thing. I mean, the people that used to drive them, quite a few bought a new one, and now they're fine again for the next 8, 9, 10 years or so. Yes. Yeah.
So it's interesting you say that. First of all, congrats on selling out. I always love that because when you've made a bet on a car and you bought a few of them and you're always worried like, oh my God, are we going to sell these? And if you sell out immediately, that means you made the right call. But I've had probably about three or four of my friends who've said to me that is one of their favorite cars. And they really are. They're very cute. They got lots of space. If you put those seats down at the back, you've got huge storage space. If you put the seats up, you've still got enough of a boot. And obviously the long wheelbase, you've got even more space there. But it's a really great. Yeah. So well done on that.
The long wheelbase is actually a 7-seater as well, an option. So not for adults, but I mean you can still put up 2 seats in the back for kiddies or so, which is actually useful.
A 7-seater. I mean, what is this for Mormon families or for like Catholics? Whatever.
It could be our new company car. All of us can fit in there.
The whole of Cliff Central could fit in that. We can go on a tour of the country in that car.
Yes, Cliff Central commute.
You could put one person in the back to transport to Phat as well.
Yeah, if you put all the seats on, you can to accommodate one person for Phat Air. All right, just generally, I'm always curious, and we've got George coming on just now, so he always has interesting info for us too. But I've always said, and I really do believe that you guys are in a unique position at De Wit Motors because you're in a small town. I mean, Ermelo is not the smallest town in South Africa, but it's also not the biggest. So you get a real front row seat to how the South African economy is doing, because if you guys are in serious trouble in terms of car sales and people aren't buying used or new cars, it's a good indicator to the rest of us that there's a problem in the economy. And I think it's weird because we've definitely got two kinds of economy in South Africa. We've got very wealthy people who have not just weathered the storm of COVID, but they've actually made more money. And those people are probably buying cars, I would imagine. You're going to tell me in a minute if I'm right or not. And then there are people who've suffered enormously through COVID and have had to sell a whole lot of stuff and have really just gone into survival mode. So what's the story at your dealership? How's everything going?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if our situation is a copy paste throughout the country, but I mean, I've spoken to quite a few other dealers, and I briefly mentioned to you, and you more or less agree with the mate at a BMW shop. So yeah. I mean, our cheapest car now in the range is around about 700,000 mark, which is an A class, which is already quite expensive for an entry level vehicle. And then, I mean, but yeah, so the things what we've experienced in the last couple of months was, I mean, we're not selling anything below around about 1.2 million. So it's almost like that market have disappeared, and those people have moved to other brands and buying down. So they will start buying your Hyundais, Toyotas, smaller vehicles. Yeah, so and then vehicles over 2 million, 3 million, and I don't think we've ever sold so many of them on this current state. So there's definitely a trend towards, as you mentioned. I mean, I think the rich will just getting richer and the poor become very poor. So
look, that's very sad, but I mean, I'm glad for you that you're selling high-end cars. That's terrific news, right? Yes. I mean, that just shows you.
Yeah, the volume is down significantly. The volume is down significantly, So
okay,
we're selling 50% less, runabout. So, but the price tag makes up for it. So yes.
You told us this before, but I can't remember. What is the most expensive car that you've sold recently?
Well, I mean, your G wagons, your G63, your Gelandewagens, they run about 3.2, 3.3 mark. So yeah, and then you can still add some extras as well. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the one that's the most sought after at the moment. It's quite scarce. So if you can get one, you're going to sell it quite quick. So yeah, you're lucky if you're getting a G63. Yeah,
that's an awesome car, though. I mean, isn't that the one that Malusi Gigaba's ex-wife? That's the one that she scratched, and she was talking about a state capture commission, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, listen, I'm going to the game reserve next week with the family. We're doing a whole. It's us and one of our other sort of family friends, and there's a whole bunch of us going with the kids and everything else. So I'm probably going to be driving a different car the next time we speak, and I'm excited about that too. There's this is your part of the world as well, and you also go to the Kruger National Park quite often. So what would you recommend is the best thing to take in those sort of circumstances?
No, I think if you are more than 4 people, I mean, if you can go with a bus, that will be wonderful. So I thought of maybe trying to see. I think we are 99 here. Everything has been submitted and so on, and I can give you a V class, which is the I can say top end range of our our buses or mini buses that we sell. So yes,
I love it. Space.
Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing better than having lots of space. If someone wants to lie down, there's like enough space for them to lie down. If you want to sit up and then everybody can see the windows are big, that's awesome. That sounds terrific.
Yes, yeah. No, okay. So you'll be leaving on Thursday, around about Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday next week. By the way, I'm not doing the show next Friday. This is a good excuse for me to tell everybody who listens to the show I'm not here next Friday.
Oh no!
No, see, don't pretend you didn't know about this already.
What?
Yeah,
what?
Come on.
What is happening?
So I'm going to ask you just now, Phil, out of all the cars that you guys sell and out of all the cars that you've driven and that you know, because I've asked George to do some homework on the perfect car in the case of a zombie apocalypse. What sort of vehicle?
Because we do have to prepare, yes.
We need to prepare. I mean, if things really go crazy and let's say there's another virus, but this virus is deadly and it turns people into zombies, we need to know what car to take. So don't answer now. Don't answer it now, but when George comes on just now, we'll talk about that.
All right, I'll think about it.
Phil, what do you think of our idea of having like Phat Air and Woke Air, and Siya wants to have a gay air, and then we can have like no children air? You think that's quite a good idea? I mean, what do you think of that?
No, I love it. I mean, is there like a weight limit for Phat Air? I mean, is there like a minimum requirement if you want to get into Phat Air? Because at buffet sounds great.
You can't be overweight. You have to be obese. So I would say if you're a man, you have to be over 125 kilograms, and if you're a woman, you probably have to be over 100. I'd say maybe to get onto Phat Air, and they just don't let thin people on. I think they should not allow. And if thin people do want to go on Phat Air, they must charge them a fortune.
And just by the way, Phat Air won't use a normal conventional Boeing, like a lot of airlines use. They will be using, they'll be reusing those army or military planes, that open up at the back because, people need to roll into the plane. Yes.
Those Russian freight planes that have those huge, big, you know which ones I mean. Yeah.
Imagine being at the airport and you see that on the tarmac, just a conveyor belt of people.
With Phat Air written on the side.
Phat Air, it's fair.
Phat Air, it's fair. There we go. See, that's their tagline. You've even done their marketing for them. I love it.
Thank you.
That's brilliant. Siya, you should be charging for that. You shouldn't just give that away for free. Phat Air, it's fair. Love that. That's great. All right. So, hey, George, what's happening?
Hey, Gareth. Good morning. How's it, Phil? Hello, Siya.
Hey, George. How are you?
I have.
What is that?
Changed cars. That is a Jaguar I-Pace.
Nice.
Full electric car. And I've had it for a couple of days now, and I'm loving it. The cable plugged into the side of the car means that I can drive past the filling stations.
That's amazing. How far does it go again on a full battery?
So this particular car, the I-Pace, does about anywhere between 400 and 470 kilometers, depending on how you drive. So the car's software calculates your last 50 kilometers of driving style, and then it adjusts your range based on your driving style. So at the moment, I'm getting about 400 Ks out of the car because I think my right foot is still a little bit too heavy. Getting used to the instant torque that this car delivers. It's 90 kilowatts, so it's one of the bigger batteries on the market versus the Mini or the i3 or the lower end Porsche that I had the last time on the show, and it does 0 to 100 in about 4.6 seconds.
I like the way you talk about like a lower end Porsche. I mean, do me a favor. Is there such a thing as lower end Porsche? I mean, even
the one I had the last time, Gareth, was the single motor Porsche Taycan, which means it's only got one motor between the rear wheels, whereas the Porsche Taycan Turbo has two motors. So that's what I mean by lower end Porsche. Not as in it's not inferior.
Right. No, okay, I get you. So, Phil, what do you think of electric cars? Do you guys sell quite a few of those? What's your feeling on them?
Well, yeah, I mean, so we got quite a lineup for next year. I mean, so we were supposed to start off with EQC, which is your GLC basically converted into a full electric. But yeah, I mean, with COVID and all, I mean, they've suspended the whole range. So we're going to have quite an exciting launch in 2022. George, I don't know if you've seen some pictures or so on the new EQS, which is which they've in Germany. Yeah.
Nice. I've seen there are quite a few electric cars spotted to be coming to South Africa from next year and the year after. So it's going to be an exciting world, I think.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, before we get on to my question about the zombie apocalypse, what have you got for us this morning?
So, Gareth, first of all, somebody obviously in the United States decided in his infinite wisdom to fill a 20-gallon jerry cans full of fuel, stick it in the back of his 2004 Hummer H2, and this lot set alight.
Oh my God.
Now, unfortunately, nobody was hurt, but by the time the fire department got there, the car was reduced to nothing.
By the way, this is all happening because there were fuel shortages on the East Coast in America, and people lost their minds. They were filling. I saw pictures. I don't know if this is nonsense or not, but I saw pictures of people with like a shopping bag, a plastic shopping bag that they were filling with fuel.
Wow.
You know how dangerous and stupid that is. That is so stupid. You have to be one of the dumbest people in the universe to actually do something like that. And you know, America always comes to the party when it's dumb stuff like that. Well done, USA, America, Murica. Beautiful.
George, let me guess. Did this happen in Florida by any chance?
This happened in Citrus County. Citrus County. Yes, that is in Florida. It's in it's at a place called Homosassa, Florida.
There we go. All right. Well done, Siya.
Florida just is the gift that keeps on giving.
Siya knows just. All right. So you shouldn't do this. Let's just put out a public service announcement here. If we ever have fuel shortages, even in a jerry can, which is probably the safest way to transport fuel, don't fill 10 of them and then put them in the back of your car. You're basically driving an explosive. That's what you're doing.
Exactly. You are. You're driving an explosive. There are your fuel tank inside the car. Phil can attest to this. Your fuel tank inside the car has been built to withstand an accident to a certain degree, so that it doesn't explode. But jerry cans don't have the same sort of technology.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
Correct. And then a very, very, very good thing is happening at the moment. The South African government is looking to change the taxes on electric cars. So the Department of Trade and Industry released a green paper in this last week, and they are looking to reduce the ad valorem tax or duty on electric cars. Now, just to put that in perspective, an internal combustion engine car, when you import it, attracts about 18% import duty. And an electric car attracts about 25% import duty. But on top of the 25% import duty, you can pay up to 17% ad valorem tax, which is like a luxury tax. So the government's looking to reduce the ad valorem tax. And then also looking to give tax relief based on the kilowatt hours of the car. Now, this is a 90 kilowatt hour car. So it's quite large, and you get the BMW i3 or the Mini electric, which has about a 60 kilowatt hour car. So they're looking to basically tax the car at a lower rate based on lower kilowatt hours. So this is all very good. I think more needs to be done, but at least something's happening, Gareth.
That's very good news. It's not often we get a chance to say nice things about the government. Phil, you wanted to say something?
No. I'm excited. I mean, that will really help. I mean, so as you know, I mean, we've got quite a few manufacturers in South Africa as well that's exporting internal combustion engines to the rest of the world. So, I mean, that will actually open up a new door maybe for possibility that we can actually assemble some electric vehicles in South Africa as well, which will bring the price down even more. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I mean, George, you've been beating that drum for a long time. We need to make the transition, otherwise we're going to be left behind. All right,
we will
guys.
lose that export. Go on.
No, so what's the charging time on the Jag?
So that's a very interesting question. So if I show you, the car comes with 2 cables. The first cable.
Imagine if George tripped and went unconscious while he's talking to us.
Oh my gosh.
No. The first cable is this cable you plug into the wall. All right, that's that cable. Effectively, you can plug into any plug socket, and it charges the car at a rate of approximately 2.4 to 3.4 kilowatts. Which in a 90 kilowatt hour car will take about 30-40 hours to charge from 0 to full. But I've got a fast charger installed. You can see it's on the wall there. I've still got to paint it. They've just installed it. And that takes the charge rate up to about 7.4 kilowatts. So I've been driving the car for the last couple of days, and you do a maximum of 60 to 100 Ks a day in normal commuting. Right. And at night when I get home, plug the car in, and it says to me 3 hours to full. So chances are with the fast charger, each night, all you need is 3 hours to fill the car. Now, your next question might be cost. The cost of electricity in South Africa at a normal residential single-phase house like this is about R1.80 to R2 per kilowatt per unit. So you can see that a 90 kilowatt car is going to cost about 180 to 200 Rand to fill and do 400 kilometers.
And that is a hell of a lot cheaper than the fuel if you have to go to the petrol station.
Yeah.
100%. Now, the even better solution is on my right-hand side here. I can't show you, but I've got a set of inverters and batteries and solar panels on the roof. Yesterday, I charged the car from 90% to 100% only using the sunshine.
George, you are an inspiration, because the rest of us feel like we're still in the Stone Age. I mean, you've got everything sorted out there. You've got fast chargers, you've got solar panels. I mean, Phil's basically sitting in the dark over there, and Siya and I haven't had power this week for 1 or 2 days. So we're all Neanderthals by comparison. All right, guys, are we ready to do the zombie apocalypse cars?
We are.
All right. Let's start off. George, you've got a few to go through here. So I've got all the pictures. Whenever you're ready, hit us with the first suggestion.
All right. So the first suggestion is a sportsmobile 4-wheel drive. So if you have a look at this car, it's nice and it's raised. If you go and Google it, sportsmobile 4-wheel drive, you'll see that it's got a camping tent.
Just describe what it looks like, and I'll choose the right picture here.
It's the yellow one that looks like an old A-Team's passion wagon.
There we go. Look at that. It's got a tent. All right, that does look like a passion wagon, but it has big tires. It's got a spare wheel on the back. It's got a ladder. I don't like the ladder because zombies might be able to climb the ladder.
Might be able to climb the ladder, exactly. It's got 4-wheel drive capability, and it's got beds inside. So you don't need to necessarily leave the vehicle.
All right. Well, that's a good start. Okay, we like that. Very nice.
Now, the next one, which I think is probably the one that is the best on this list, is the Local Motors Rally Fighter. Now, that one is, it looks like a matte black car with 4-wheel drive tires. It's got a red paint around its grille, Gareth. And it's got a little bit of a T-top. So that car looks quite quick, and it looks like it can almost get anywhere.
Yeah, you see, you got that open top, though. I mean, zombies could reach in, could break down.
And what's the storage situation like for this one?
Well, not very much, because you want to get away from the zombies, right? So this car was actually built for the desert. So it depends on where you are. If you find yourself in the desert with zombies, this car will get you away from them.
All right.
But George, I still need moisturizer. I still need at least snacks for the road. I still need a change of outfits. I mean, I need to look decent while running away from the zombies.
That's an interesting vehicle. All right. What else have you got there on your list?
And then the next one is the Aston Martin DB9. Now, Aston Martin DB9 is a fast car. So if you find yourself being a city slicker and you want to get away from the zombies, the Aston Martin DB9 is on the list. It's not my favorite zombie getaway car, but it is incredibly quick.
With the blood and the bones and the teeth and the brains, and you're going to be driving into a lot of zombies. It's going to ruin this car. It's such a beautiful vehicle. You do not want to abuse this by driving it into zombies. I don't like this at all. But it
seems like you could drive with James Bond in that car. It seems like.
Yeah.
Well, if
I think so far the best one is that A-Team Passion Wagon. That's the yellow one. It's got to be in yellow though, so that's good.
And then one I think that's gonna trump the Passion Wagon is the Conquest Knight XV, which is a black, looks like a little bit of a Hummer, looks like a bit of a yes, that one.
Now we're talking. That is
that could be it doesn't have to be bulletproof, but it could be axe-proof. If you want to armor plate the doors.
This has displaced the Passion Wagon. This is definitely much better. Phil, this thing you could easily take on zombies, and this looks like it's already armor plated. It's got those huge lights on the top. Yeah. You could light up the space in front of you. You could see where the zombies are coming from. It looks like not too many zombie guts are going to get into the engine because it's got that grill on the front. This is good.
Yeah. And then the next car, Gareth, is if you find yourself living near water and you need a getaway car, is the Water Car Python.
Okay, here it is. Look at this.
Ooh. Now, wait a minute. Make it work.
So the question is, can zombies swim? And if they can't, this is the perfect getaway car from zombies.
That is pretty cool. Now, is that thing completely amphibious?
It's completely amphibious. You can drive it on land, and you can ride it in the water, or what do you call driving a boat?
Sailing.
Sailing a speedboat. And then if you're a motorcycle type and you think that you need to get away a motorcycle, the Triumph Rocket 3 Roadster is probably the one to go for. It looks like a little bit of a street fighter, and maybe in the Mad Max era.
Phil, are you much of a motorbike enthusiast?
Well, no. I mean, I have got quite a few friends. I mean, I was almost getting into it, and then they got quite a few friends that got hurt badly. So yeah, I decided to skip that one.
Yeah, well, my parents said, no, you're exactly right. My parents said to me when I was a kid, there are only two things that we will not allow you to do while you live in our house. One is ride a motorbike, and the other one is get a piercing or a tattoo. And luckily, I didn't break any of their rules. I mean, there's nothing better than that feeling of being on a bike, and I have subsequently been on one. But you're either really into it, and then you become super passionate about it, and you spend fortunes of money. And there's some people whose whole life works around these bikes. But I do think in a zombie apocalypse, it might have its usefulness. I mean, it can get away quickly. It's much more, you can turn on a dime. Yeah, you can get through spaces that cars couldn't. I think it's not a bad idea to have one of those in reserve. That's a good one, George.
In your zombie reserve. The next one, Gareth, is the Mercedes-Benz Unimog.
Yes, now that's a car. Okay, is that the green one or the black and white one in these pictures?
It's the black and white one.
Ah, nice. There it is. There's the Unimog. There we are.
Mercedes-Benz Unimog. And I would imagine that could drive over quite a few zombies. And you could have a gun turret on the back,
Yes, absolutely.
What is that even used for? That is like a truck, like a truck transformer.
It is a bit of a truck chassis.
You want to say, Phil? Say that again?
No, we sold a couple in the last, I'll say, a couple of years ago, and it's quite often used in forestry. The Unimogs go very small turning circles, so it's actually very useful when you're in the forest, in a pine forest or so, where it can turn easily around. So yeah.
Now, George, that picture that you sent us of that Unimog, it's actually quite a deceiving picture, because they're very, very high cars. They're very big. Those wheels are much, much bigger than a normal car's wheels.
It's pretty much a truck chassis. So if you think of the height of a truck, the Unimog is probably as high as that.
See, now, what other show in the whole world would tell you how to avoid zombies? This is why we're so special. We like to, give you services no one else can. What else have we got? Last.
Well, if you're on a budget, you really need to get away quickly, and you can't afford an anti-zombie car, the Narboard Trail Rider does. So that particular electric skateboard, you want to call it, does 0 to 100 k's an hour in 2 seconds. In 4 seconds, and beats 90% of cars.
Yes. I just think you're very exposed. Siya, this is not one for you.
Not at all. You can't carry supplies here. The zombies have easy access to you. George, good tech in terms of being able to be agile and move quickly, but for everything else,
yeah.
No.
So far, top of the pops for me is the Unimog. Have you got anything to compete with that? We've got the last two.
The last two. Okay, so I'll leave the best for last, but the second last is the Bugatti Veyron Supersport. Incredibly quick car if you've got some fast zombies. And this was probably going to go into your category of the Aston Martin, Gareth, where you don't want to mess the car up. But in a zombie war, I suppose it doesn't matter.
Hey, listen, Phil, the only reason you'd have this car is if you stole one from a dealership because you wanted to get some kicks and drive one of the most expensive cars in the world, right? There's no other reason.
Sure.
All right, the last one. What's the last one?
Last but not least, and I think this one trumps them all for me, and that is the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon Lap V 6X.
Sure. There it is.
6.
Oh, my. That is the car. That's the one. Done deal.
I think that's the zombie apocalypse car to have.
Well, it's so funny. Like
Phil was talking using that, I'm going to pick up Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I mean, Phil was saying earlier that's one of their most expensive cars. Not exactly this has been modified, but the G-Wagon is a really popular car, and it's expensive and people love it. But look at how this one's been modified. It's so cool. That is what you need more than anything else.
Well, there you have it. You can avoid the zombies in one of these in whichever way you want.
Awesome. Well, I love it. George, thank you so much. Phil, do you have any cars that we might have left out there that George hasn't covered that you would throw in before we go?
Yeah, well, George basically stole 2 of my ideas, but I need to be biased and probably stay with my brand. So I don't have a picture, but I'm sure you'll get if you're going to Google Mercedes-Benz cement mixer, you're going to probably get a picture of how will you. Yeah.
Mercedes-Benz cement.
Googling that right now.
All right. Let's see who gets active first.
Wow.
Is it an actual cement mixer, or is that just a nickname?
No. I think it's just something that's rugged, and it will probably get over something or two. Yeah.
This is great. All right, now hang on.
Well, you could put the zombies in the back and let the thing turn.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So that is a good idea. You could put blades in there instead of a mixer. You could put like a thing that chops them up and spits them out down the chute. Yeah, you could throw whole zombies in, and it comes out as like a gravy. Zombie.
I don't want to make a zombie salad.
No, it would be a zombie gravy. Trust me. Jesus, that's a hell of a thing. But that's not a bad suggestion, actually. Come to think of it. I mean, look at this thing. Let me put the picture up, and you can see what we're all talking about. So it's what you'd expect, a cement mixer. But you imagine you have someone up on the tower. You basically I mean, you could modify it to have like a thing in the front that sucks up the zombies, puts them into the mixer, chops them up, and then spits them out down the chute. And that could really get you that could save a lot of lives, human lives, not zombie ones. I love it. All right, gentlemen, it's been lots of fun. As always, we've had a ridiculous Friday. And George, thanks for doing all the research into zombie cars. Phil, great to see you again. We will talk on Monday, 6 o'clock. And have an excellent weekend, everybody. Be good.